Arguably, folks today, as opposed to maybe 200 years ago, have more access to education or college or post-secondary degrees. And we've got more access to healthcare efficiencies there. Then why is there a broadening gap in the folks that can go to college and can't go to college? And is there an opportunity for us as lawmakers to sort of ensure that there's better opportunities for folks?
Well, I think that same, you cited the growth in technology in the question, and I think that has been one of the contributors to this widening gap. I think that we live in an increasingly technocratic society. And I mean, in Tocqueville's day, he argued that lawyers were America's aristocracy because they were so well versed in the lawmaking process and the laws in the courts. And I think now it's PhD economists, in addition to lawyers, financiers, and other people who do not have access to this education would not have the ability to understand.
And also going back to your last statement of whether or not the government should be involved in making sure certain people can go to college or not. That obviously brings up the idea of affirmative action, which some people would argue that that is something that we necessarily need to do. That we need to take affirmative action in order to make equality more of a equality and diversity a more prevalent presence in our education systems.
Let me jump on affirmative action quickly. We've seen some groups this morning that were a lot more diverse than you are. So should I be giving them 10 extra points because of past discrimination against groups they are part of?
Well, first there's a difference in the ways one can implement affirmative action, and the most effective way is generally through socioeconomic status. It'd be hard to do that in this kind of round. But
well, I would say that the affirmative action is interesting, but I would say that sort of affirmative action would not be fair in the sense that what we really need to be doing is not making sure the results are the same. We need to make sure that the starting places are the same. And I think that people who come from disadvantaged places don't need to be given a cushion to make themselves, more equal in the sense that their places where they're starting from need to be more equal.
But I guess, is the starting place the same, though, for you folks here today versus a public school in rural or downtown Manhattan or downtown, Bronx? Is it equal?
I don't think that it is equal, but I think that what we've advocated already in this Q&A would make it equal. The emphasis on education, the emphasis on more conversation at the dinner table, and while that's certainly unequal, I think that affirmative action is inadequate. You certainly see many students who are accepted because of affirmative action policies to colleges tend to fail out more, tend to do worse, and that's not so much a reflection on the student, it's just a reflection of they were unprepared, and so affirmative action is really not helping them in the long run.
Can you see any role that the Constitution plays, what provisions of the Constitution or Bill of Rights that are important in furthering the goals of equal opportunity or equal condition?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me is the 14th Amendment. It advocates equal protection and equal treatment of people in this country, and I think that has spurred a lot of movements. You go back to the civil rights movement, and you associate the 14th Amendment with that. And I think that those kind of outstanding examples of people making a difference with equality really comes to mind first for me.
I thought you had some good data you put in there. You certainly have read the material, although name dropping is often not the most desirable thing. You might have tagged on Putnam and some of the other people where you grabbed some of those ideas from. I know you don't have a lot of time in the prepared presentation, but I thought that you certainly had the concepts down there effectively. Early on, you talked about the more government versus less government as two alternatives of how we solve our problems. And some of it came in your answers. I would like to have tied that up and said, okay, we agree more government or less government, or the two of us agree and one don't, or get some feel where you stood on those. But more importantly, take a look around this room. You're among a very small group of people who've ever been able to sit in a room like this and testify. that most people never have this opportunity. So I hope that you will savor that opportunity. I hope you'll come back, not as the incriminated, but rather as the enlightened, and enlighten some of the people who sit up at these tables up here, and I think you're on a good trajectory to do that.
Thanks. You guys did a wonderful job, as I've come to expect from your team. You know, the presentation was good. I think I would like to hear a little bit more about the constitutional application and maybe some case law specific to the question dealing with whether we've got a more vibrant democracy now. The answers to the question were great. It obviously indicated you studied Tocqueville in addition to just the small snippets that were actually in the book, and I think that that's a testament to how much you've studied and how much you've worked on this. I liked the answers to the questions regarding maybe a practical reason why people are maybe they're just less attached to their communities, and that's why it actually is a good theory. Otherwise, I think you guys did a wonderful job today. Thank you.
Yes, I would concur that this was a very interesting discussion. I also, as I prodded you with the question, looking for specifics in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights that try to move toward equality of opportunity in particular. You introduced an interesting idea of the trend toward checkbook participation. As a matter of fact, very famous political scientist has recently written a whole book on that and the way in which that has diminished the personal kind of service that's there. That's an interesting point, and I would like to have heard you extend that a little more instead of just dropping it and going on. Your reliance on education as the prime, almost the exclusive means for increasing participation, I think is subject to debate. You know, we're one of the best educated nations in the world, and yet we still have one of the lower rates of voting and decreasing participation, as you accurately pointed out. So how do we square those two things? I thought your point when you talked about Madison and factions and how factions differ from civically motivated individual groups, that was an important point. And you also talked about the importance of socioeconomic status and the relationship of that to participation. And I would like to have heard a little further discussion on that, because that goes nearer to the idea of equality of condition and how that might be promoted. It was a stimulating discussion. You were well prepared, and we appreciate you. We appreciate your teacher.
Thank you.